I've always thought of myself as someone who can handle a bit of teasing, the kind of back and forth jokes that friends toss around just to mess with each other. But with Tom, it was different. From way back, it wasn't just playful kidding. It was like every little comment he made was designed to chip away at me. And honestly, I didn't really see it at first. At least not for what it was. I chalked it up to him being sarcastic or having a weird sense of humor. I told myself, hey, that's just how he is. But deep down it felt like more than that. You have those friends where everything is a joke until it stops feeling funny to one side. Tom and I had been that way for years, but over time it stopped feeling like friendship and more like a quiet contest I was losing. It began with small snide comments, like the way he'd casually call me out in front of others or laugh at things I said like they were dumb, even when they weren't. At first I shrugged them off, but every little barb started to stick. And it wasn't just in private, it was public, front and center. If we were with our group, he'd find a way to put me on the spot or trip me up just so people would laugh at me, not with me. That's the difference, right? I remember this one afternoon at a group hangout, sitting outside this cafe with some of our friends. We were all just trying to have a good time, but Tom was on a roll. It started off subtle. He'd make a quick jab about something I said, or mock an idea I'd thrown in. Then it got louder and more relentless. I could feel everyone else watching, some awkward, some barely trying to hide their amusement. One time he even went so far as to lean over and slap my sandwich right off the table. Just like that. No warning. Just splat. Entire lunch ruined in a second. At that moment I couldn't help but feel exposed, like I was this punchline in a joke I never agreed to be part of. People around us laughed, and I forced a smile, but inside it was boiling. I was stuck, unsure how to react. Should I confront him? Walk away? Just take it? I thought maybe if I kept my cool this too would pass. But it didn't. Every time I opened my mouth, every time I tried to be part of the conversation, Tom found a way to cut me down. What's harder is that none of our mutual friends seemed to really notice how off it had gotten. Or maybe they did, but they just accepted it as Tom's way and didn't think much of it. It felt isolating. I was in this awkward position of being the target, the underdog, and feeling powerless to change the dynamic. It's weird because I used to trust Tom. We shared years of memories, and I thought that counted for something. But trust doesn't mean much when every interaction leaves you feeling smaller than before. As the lunch disaster settled around me, and the laughter died down, I felt something shift inside. This wasn't just a friendship turned sour. This felt like a battle that I kept losing quietly, and it was getting worse. I remember thinking with a lump in my throat, how did it come to this? How did we get here? I felt bitter and helpless, stuck in a cycle where every smile hid a sneer, every word a warning. That day, watching my lunch get destroyed and everyone just move on like it was normal, I realized something important. I couldn't just take it anymore. There's only so long you can quietly endure before something inside you snaps. And for me, that moment came with a ruined sandwich and a crowd's laughter. I knew then being passive, playing the victim, hoping he'd just stop, wasn't going to cut it. Something had to change. I couldn't keep pretending this was just friends being friends. It wasn't. And if I didn't stand up for myself, nobody else was going to do it for me. So yeah, that was the breaking point, the moment it hit me that if this friendship was going to be toxic, maybe the answer wasn't to run away or take it silently. Maybe, just maybe, it was time to fight back. And not with words, but with something a little more calculated. Because some grudges don't go away on their own. Sometimes they need to be settled. And that's exactly where I was headed next. There's this moment when pain just shifts inside you. Like it stops being something that just happens to you and suddenly turns into fuel for something darker, something that scares the hell out of you if you really think about it. That's exactly how I felt after what went down the other day with Tom. The guy embarrassed me in front of everyone, not even subtle about it. I was this punchline, the butt of snide remarks, and honestly it hit me harder than I thought it would. But instead of breaking me, something inside snapped in a way I hadn't expected. That old hurt stuff from years ago, it came roaring back, but this time it wasn't just pain anymore. It was a call to action. I remember sitting on my bed, replaying the whole scene over and over in my mind, feeling all this anger and frustration mixing with a strange sense of clarity. Okay, I told myself, if you're going to get through this, you're not going to be the one who loses. And losing to Tom felt like losing so much more than just that moment. It felt like losing myself, my pride, everything I tried to hold on to. I wasn't about to let that happen. So, I started thinking about where Tom was vulnerable. Not physically, no, that would be too obvious. No, this had to get under his skin, deep where it really counted. And then it hit me, his relationship. Tom was that guy who put on this tough exterior, but everyone knew he cared deeply about his girlfriend. It was like his Achilles heel. I didn't want to hurt him physically. I wanted to shake that foundation he built around himself. I turned to the one thing that, honestly, most of us are fragile about: social media. It's weird how much trust we put into little digital windows, how easily we let people in when they're just words on a screen. That gave me an idea. I could create someone completely fake, someone Tom wouldn't suspect, and slowly worm my way into his digital world. Setting up the account was almost too easy. I chose a name that sounded familiar but not too close, like someone he might have crossed paths with at some point but never really knew. Pulled the right pictures, crafted the right backstory. It feels strange doing all this, like stepping into someone else's skin, but honestly, there was something exhilarating about the control it gave me. For once, I was the one pulling the strings instead of standing there taking hits. What really got me was thinking about how Tom would open DMs, check messages, and maybe even forget for a moment that this wasn't some random stranger on the other side of the screen. I imagined the trust growing, how his guard would start to drop, maybe even share things he shouldn't. Every detail I added to the fake persona was calculated: his interests, the way he talked, the kind of music he liked. I even looked up some insider info: social media stalking. Yeah, I'm not proud of it, just so I could be as convincing as possible. As the profile came together, I began to feel this strange shift in myself. I wasn't just the guy who got humiliated anymore. I was becoming someone else, someone who could fight back in a way that mattered. Part of me hated it, I won't lie. Part of me kept wondering if I'd crossed a line I couldn't come back from. But the other part, the part that remembered every mocking laugh, every snide comment, that part was hungry. Hungry to see Tom lose himself a little, to taste the same insecurity he'd thrown at me. So, I sent the friend request. Watched the little notification when he accepted. That tiny symbol on my screen felt like the first win in a war I was ready to wage. The groundwork was done. The first handshake was virtual, sure, but real in its consequences. I was inside Tom's world now, just waiting for the right moment to make my move. What no one saw, including Tom, was how much this was changing me. Revenge is a funny thing. It's not just about hurting someone else. It's about losing parts of yourself along the way, too. But at that point I didn't care. All I wanted was to turn the tables. Having established contact and feigned closeness with Tom, I was now preparing for the next step, where flirtation would blur the lines and betrayal would begin to unravel everything he thought he knew. I remember the exact moment I decided to go all in. After weeks, no months, of stewing in that bitter mix of anger and disappointment, it wasn't enough anymore to just be annoyed or hurt. I wanted Tom to feel that sting too. That day, I sent him a friend request on social media, all casual-like, making sure my profile looked just friendly enough to lower any suspicions. I knew he'd accept, mostly because he had no idea who I really was anymore. The Tom I used to know was trusting, maybe even a bit naive. Perfect for what I had planned. Once we were friends again, I started slow. I commented here and there on his posts, shared something funny, made some offhand jokes. It was all part of building that fake camaraderie. I narrated it to myself like a game, reminding myself why I was doing it, justifying it in a way. But honestly, as the conversations grew, I felt this weird knot in my stomach. I kept telling myself it was just revenge. He needed a lesson. Still, it wasn't simple. Then I introduced her. That fake account I created wasn't just some random profile. She was exactly what Tom would be drawn to: sassy, a little mysterious, a bit flirty but not over the top. I even spent a ridiculous amount of time crafting her personality, her photos, the kind of things she liked or shared. At first, Tom was just friendly, exchanging simple messages, nothing suspicious. But soon enough, the tone shifted. She became the person he confided in, joked with, and yes, flirted with. It all happened so naturally that it almost felt surreal to me. Watching him let his guard down like that, like he was spilling secrets I'd never had access to before. What got me wasn't just the messages themselves, it was what they represented. Tom, the guy who always acted like he was loyal, the one who would call me bro, and talk about honesty like it was this unbreakable bond, was slowly tearing down his own. His words to her crossed lines, if I'm going to be honest. It was subtle at first, little compliments, teasing remarks, but then it turned into more direct stuff. I remember reading a message where he admitted how stressed he was with his relationship, and that talking to her made him feel understood, in a way he didn't get at home. If my girlfriend ever saw that, it wasn't going to be pretty. And there I was, sitting behind the screen, screenshots at the ready, feeling my pulse quicken. I was that guy, the one who tricks his best friend's boyfriend, the one who sets a trap with bait sharp enough to tear apart something sacred. No more playful jabs, no more petty sniping. This was calculated. Cold. There was definitely a moment where I paused and thought, am I crossing a line here? 'Cause yeah, I was. Crossing it hard. The morals, the friendship, even the decency, I abandoned all of it. But the anger drowned out the doubts. In the end, I told myself the damage was deserved. Tom needed to see that his actions had real consequences just like mine had. The irony wasn't lost on me though, revenge turning me into someone I'd never have liked to be. But at that moment I didn't care. I had the proof. I had the leverage. More importantly, I had him exactly where I wanted. With all that evidence in hand, I was ready to deal the final blow. Ready or not, Tom was about to find out just how far I was willing to go to make him suffer. I remember the exact moment I decided to expose Tom. It wasn't some spur-of-the-moment thing. No, this had been brewing for way too long. For months, I'd been sitting on that ugly stash of screenshots where Tom was casually betraying his girlfriend online. Seeing those messages, how he talked behind her back, and the little double crosses he thought no one would notice. It all just felt like this dark cloud hanging over me. And then one night, after going back and forth in my head for what felt like hours, I finally hit send. I forwarded every single snapshot to his girlfriend. Honestly, right after I did it, I wasn't sure if I was more nervous or relieved. What if I was making a huge mistake? What if I was blowing everything up just because I wanted revenge? But deep down I felt like Tom had it coming. He'd stabbed too many people in the back and this was payback. What happened next was like watching a bomb go off in slow motion. His girlfriend read the messages and confronted him almost immediately. From what I later heard, she was devastated, hurt not just by what he did but by how casual he seemed about it. The trust was shattered. Broken so badly I wasn't sure it could ever be fixed. And when she went public with it in their friend group, things spiraled fast. It wasn't just the two of them anymore. Suddenly the entire circle was buzzing with gossip, assumptions, and judgment. People who used to hang out with Tom stopped calling. Invitations that once came his way dried up overnight. And worse, I heard that even before the truth was fully out, some folks started whispering rumors, twisting the story to make him seem even worse. Watching all of that unfold, I should have felt victorious, right? I mean, seeing Tom's world unravel was exactly what I'd planned. But the truth is it felt empty. Like I won this round, sure, but at what cost? There have been times since then when I catch myself wondering if I crossed a line. I know he's hurting, and yeah, he deserves some kind of reckoning, but the whole thing left this heavy weight in my chest like revenge wasn't the clean, satisfying justice I imagined it to be. And it's not just Tom who's caught in the mess. The people around him, his friends, his girlfriend, none of them walk away unscathed. Friendships fray, alliances shift, and the social fabric of our group feels like it's been ripped apart. Sometimes I think about how different everything might have been if we just talked, or if I'd confronted him directly instead of going for this scorched earth move. Now, whenever I hear about Tom, it's in whispers or guarded glances. The guy I once called a friend is now kind of this cautionary tale, and I'm not sure if that's justice or just more bitterness feeding into itself. So here we are, both of us stuck with the fallout from a feud that started small but grew into something way uglier than I ever expected. And it makes me wonder, does revenge really heal old wounds? Or does it just pull you deeper into a cycle of pain that never ends?